evening once again, and welcome to another edition of Doctor on Call. Of course, our usual Tuesday evening program at this time. Dr. Nixon is with us as always, and tonight we're talking about strokes, and of course that would take us into the application of, or the primary application measures that can help prevent. Also, we'll be looking at it and putting a lot of emphasis as, hypertension being the main risk factor. In fact, earlier this week, it was Hypertension Awareness Day. So all of that would come into play this evening on the program. So we have quite a bit to talk about, and we do know that we've lost many people in Grenada as a result of strokes and other conditions that are associated to hypertension. So it's important that we pay attention, and of course we will be engaging you a little later on in the program with your questions and also your contributions. So do stay with us, and of course we hope to have a good time as always, while we learn and engage. So it's a good time to welcome Doc. Doc, good evening and welcome again.
Hi Godfrey, good evening. How are you?
Very good. Yeah, it's always.
You guys not dancing enough? We need more rain.
It's gonna come. It's gonna come. In fact, this morning there was quite a decent shower in the Wester Hall area. I was surprised because
Wester Hall has catchment.
I don't know if they have catchment, but
wanted to phone into the Granite Town, okay?
But I can tell you, on my way down to work this morning, when I got to the West Hall area, water was flowing in the drains. Yes. I was quite surprised because, further up, there was none at all. But from time to time, we do get a few drops, maybe about 8 drops of rain in my area. When I say 8 drops, I mean
3 yesterday.
I mean 8 drops. You got 3.
I literally mean 3.
Well, let me tell you. Look, whatever, we have to be thankful because at least.
I think seriously though, we have to really rethink how we harvest water.
Oh yes.
That basically has become everybody's responsibility. The people from Carriacou, the people from Bermuda, and other places where they rely on rain, have found ways to harness the water that falls.
Yes, rainwater harvesting.
And alluvial water,
yeah.
that which comes whenever it rains, you say, hey, see me here, let me catch you. The Bermudans actually have specialized ways that they build their roofs so that every drop of rain.
Well, I'll tell you, Doc, considering that we're living in an age of climate change and rising global temperatures, if we are to survive this, we have to find ways to adapt, and we must mitigate. If not, then definitely this species will be no more. And this is serious. This is serious. I don't know how serious people are taking this, but it is a very serious situation.
Although there's some parts of a species that we can do without currently, but let's not talk about that.
Yes, you're right. But, we have to take this thing very, very serious. It's not just, it just cannot be business as usual. We have to take this serious. And, even aside from, the issue with water and food, there are additional health issues which we've spoken about before and we will speak about again, and if I'm not mistaken, people who are at risk of stroke, which we're going to speak about tonight. I don't know, Doc, how good it is for people like that to be exposed to extreme high temperatures.
So we know about hypertension and high temperatures don't really mix up.
They don't,
with hypertension, and the heat causes additional stress, but we know that people with hypertension do have more challenges.
Yes.
When it's hot, you're not going to tell them look for any medication, okay? you're not leaving your house.
That's right.
That's the truth.
Right.
I was looking on the weekend, I'm like, where's everybody? Go to town and where's everybody? So, the weather does mitigate certain practices. Are you going to the health center? Are you being followed up? And like I said, the anxiety causes.
Yeah. Yes,
and then sometimes you drink the wrong thing to try and cool down that has a lot of salt, a lot of sugar.
That it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. So, Dr. Ned, we want to talk about stroke, and then of course we would move on to other things. And folks, as I said earlier, we will engage you, so you can definitely follow us. And welcome to those of you viewing on GBN Television 7 and 11, our listeners on K105 FM, and of course our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. We are happy to have you as always, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. Doc, I always like to start by sharing a little bit from some of my favorite sites where I get information, and let me just say that I use credible sites that can point you to the researches that have been done, to back up what they're saying. Yeah, and I just want to start by saying a stroke occurs when a blood vessel in the brain ruptures and bleeds, or when there is a blockage in the blood supply to the brain. The rupture or blockage prevents blood and oxygen from reaching the brain's tissues. And Doc, I'm going to stop right here and hand it over to you.
Well, thank you. So again, good evening, everyone who's with us, especially those people who live far away and think they need to be with us tonight. We're happy to have you. I'm almost tempted to speak about risk factors, but let's talk about stroke, because it's probably one of the worst outcomes we can have, because it's quite likely to result in death or severe disability. A stroke basically is an accident or an incident, depends on how you want to look at it. But it's an event that occurs in your brain. Now, the brain has its own circulation, its own supply of blood, right? And because the brain is probably our most important organ, and so it needs to have its own set of food. It's oxygen, it's glucose, and all other nutrients that the tissue needs. A little bit of fat. That's why our cholesterol has a limit. Okay, you need to have that cholesterol for the brain tissue to be nice and supple, and for signals to be sent from one part of the brain to the other.
Yeah, right.
Now, when that circulation gets interrupted in any way, whether it's for a little while and goes back, or whether it is that there is a sudden occlusion, or meaning a blockage, right? It blocks suddenly, or maybe it was kind of blocking, and then one day it's just completely blocked, right? Or whether you have a big bleed. People say they have an aneurysm, not necessarily an aneurysm, because an aneurysm indicates other things. Okay, an aneurysm indicates that there's like when you say a tire have a baby head, that's what you call it. When your tire have a little bulge.
Yeah.
That's what we call it, a baby head.
I think they call it that.
But when your tire have a little swelling.
Yeah.
Right?
There's this little bulge on the tire. Yes.
Right. So, and sometimes that's a weak spot, right? It can break and the tire burst on the road, and that's dangerous. We know that, right?
Oh, definitely.
Especially if you're driving fast, it can be deadly. So, an aneurysm is that, where there's a little bulging, right? So it is a weakening. But in the case of a high blood pressure, what we have is more like we can have one, cholesterol, fat, clogging. We've talked about the work of excess cholesterol and clogging our arteries, those blood vessels that carry the oxygen and stuff. But sometimes the mere pressure, you've come into your house and found that your bathroom is flooding because the pipe break, right? Turn on the water, Nawasa turn on the water, and sometimes it's just heavy. And we've spoken about why Nawasa sometimes turns off its water, because when it rains and the water comes in so heavily, you can have damage, right, to the pipe in the to the system within the treatment plant. You don't want your valves, you don't want your lines to be broken and stuff. In the same way, if your blood pressure is heavy, for whatever reason, you can actually have breakage of those blood vessels. So why blood vessels don't break elsewhere? Why you don't have blood vessels breaking in your thigh or in your hand? Simply because your brain is an enclosed place. It's in a vault. It's vault in this hard structure, which is called your skull. And so there's very little space. There's very little space to give. Even though the brain is soft and stuff, there's really very little space. So if your pressure is very high, or if, like I said, you have cholesterol, that fat clogging the artery, it can end up having a stroke. So the stroke is the outcome of whatever, but there's a deficit in the circulation, because when you block it, whatever is beyond it, there's no.
Right. Yes.
So like if you turn off the pipes up in Vandom, the people who live in Bolio, Boca, Lamode, and down beyond it get no water, right? They get that sustaining substance that they get. In the same way, if the blood vessel is blocked, there's an occlusion at a certain spot. Whatever is beyond doesn't get appropriate circulation and stuff, and so the brain tissue can die. Or if you have a big old bleed, so you know what happens when the river overruns in River Road, right? You have water go all over the place, damage to the houses, your cars, whatever is in the space gets damaged. But that tissue can die. Your car cannot work again. Your garden can get flooded and all your plants die. That's what happens once it floods. Once you have that big old bleed, the blood vessel breaks and it seeps into the brain tissue, and what you have is damage to the tissue, and often permanent damage to the tissue. The symptoms you experience will depend on where this happens, and if it's just like something that happens for a little while, because sometimes it blocks and open, right? It blocks and it opens. But what we know is that the main risk factor for having strokes is elevated blood pressure.
Elevated blood, right.
Right. High cholesterol, yes. High cholesterol as that thing that blocks the pipeline is also a factor. But hypertension is the main problem. Now, hear me. Some people don't know the pressure high because they haven't checked it. They just did not know they had high blood pressure. So you wake up in the night and somebody's there, they're unresponsive, they're awake, they're alive because they're breathing, right? They're breathing and they're breathing regularly, but they cannot communicate because there's been so much damage to the brain. That's a stroke. So a stroke is what occurs when there's damage to your brain for whatever reason. In relation to having high blood pressure, where there's a the blood vessel is affected in one way. It's occluded completely, partially, most times suddenly, or you have a break where you have seeping of blood into the brain, which is that is difficult to deal with. If you have an occlusion, sometimes you can do a little more. The truth is, if it happens, the earlier you recognize that a person's had a stroke and seek care, the better. Of course, this is Grenada, and we don't have a lot of the advanced technologies, but sometimes we can do stuff once we recognize advanced technologies for interventions. We don't have a stroke unit in our hospital, which is a very specialized and advanced space in which we offer therapeutic interventions. But therefore, that is why it is important that we use a primary healthcare system in a very, very responsible way. We have to get it as part of our normal routine. You know, the people who go to the hairdresser every week, in the same way you have to decide, or they go to the barber. Men know that they're keeping their hair kind of neat, need to go and get the edges trim up, and you know how it is. No, you want it to look good, there's nothing wrong with it. But just as how you keep those habits for, maintaining what you look like, you also have to keep habits for maintaining what you are like. as far as your health is concerned.
So, Doc, before we move, there are basically 3 different types of stroke. Just for information, can we just just let people know?
We talk about the transient or the short-acting one.
Mm-hmm.
So you might get up one morning and you have slurred speech. You're having difficulty articulating, speaking. Feel a little weakness on the side, or you may feel a full weakness, like you've had a full stroke, right? But in 2 days, they say you had a mild stroke. It regresses, you come back to normal, or and you may have that more than once. And you see it happen in families that my brother, my uncle, my father. You'd see several people having similar symptoms, right? That's a transient ischemic attack. A transient ischemia meaning there's a lack of circulation. Okay? That's what it's giving, the lack of blood circulation. So the transient ischemic attack is what happens to some people. You had a stroke, but he fully recuperates. He recuperates fully. That's transient. That's short attack. That's just, for a while. And then you have the occlusive one, where it might happen very suddenly, or you may have some TIAs or the transient ischemic attacks occurring before. Because what you have is blood vessels that are closing down because of the presence of cholesterol closing down the vein, or sometimes you have a clot that comes from elsewhere, right? And the clot may be blood that has accumulated on cholesterol that has been blocking a bigger blood vessel. So it breaks off. So it's like you take a little stone, you put it in the pipeline, and it gets to the narrowest part.
Okay. Okay.
Right. It occludes. It blocks. It prevents further circulation, and that part of the tissue beyond no longer gets oxygen or nutrients, and the tissue can die. And then you have like I said, the big catastrophic one. You have a bleed, which some often can result in death immediately, or some people will remain with long-term residue. They're called sequelae. How do we determine what is? You have to do a CAT scan. You can guess, but you have to do a CAT scan or MRI to figure out what has happened here, and you'll be able to figure out more or less what has happened. Right. Management is kind of not the same if you're going to do definitive management, but like I said, we don't have advanced situation where we can say, okay, this is an ischemic, this is an occlusive one, or this is a bleed. So what we do is mostly offer supportive therapy, try to get patients down, try to give people physiotherapy as early as possible, so that they can reincorporate into life as far as that is. Right. As far as that is.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about time here, because there's a little thing with the stroke that is referred to as be fast. But can you look at someone and basically tell that there is a oncoming stroke?
A possibility.
Yeah,
a stroke that's kind of hanging out to come on and take. Right.
What do we look for, or what? How do we?
What do we see? Right. Some people tell you're talking to someone and their speech goes. So starting on the speech, the face might droop on one side. They may be very slow in responding to you. They may seem confused. Those are some of the symptoms that happen. And of course, if the person falls, we really had a full stroke. But sometimes we find that people are confused. They can't think as fast. Their speech is not clear. They seem not to understand what you're saying. And of course, the twisting of the face is a possibility, and weakness in their limbs. Usually limbs on one side of your body.
Right. So let's go now to some of the risk factors, because I think, and we mentioned hypertension as the main one, but there are other issues or there are other ways that, or actions of people that can actually aid in bringing on a stroke. So things that you should prevent. Let's look at a few of those. So the risk factors,
Stress. And sometimes we tend not, a lot of us think we cope, we don't. We don't cope as well as we think. We saw what happened in COVID when people came face to face with stress, and we became aware of that there is a thing called stress. And stress often contributes to your blood pressure becoming elevated. So hypertension is one of the things. Go look for it. Make sure it's not there all the time. Or diet. Diet high in fats, high in salt, even high in sugar, or body weight, obesity, exercise or lack thereof. Those are all factors that put us at risk for having challenges. If you've had a family history, has somebody in your family had a stroke, then you probably run the risk of having a stroke as well. Can't think of anything else currently. But
what about different types of medication? And I just want to say that a lot of times you go to a doctor, and the doctor may ask you about different medications that you take, because of course they will be able to guide you and maybe prescribe differently.
So there are some medications that actually make your blood pressure go up, especially like cough and cold medications. So I don't like to use compound medications for colds for that reason, because you might give somebody something that works for their cough, the secretions on their chest, the congestion in their nostril. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And their fever. You might get one medication. It's easy to consume. But in the case of people who have hypertension in this way, it can actually worsen your blood pressure by causing constriction of the blood vessels, and causing you to have a stroke because your pressure goes on and you don't understand. And sometimes you think that the headache that a person is experiencing is because they have a cold, right? And again, remember that not all high blood pressure courses with hypertension. If you start courses with headaches, if you start having headaches, your pressure is relatively quite high already. So don't wait until I don't have a headache, I don't feel anything. When I have a headache, my neck hurts. That's when your pressure is already quite high. So we advise people, and sometimes you just don't feel any headaches. So we advise people to look. Don't wait until you have a headache. Remember that hypertension is a quiet, very quiet disease. Sometimes you can feel a bit discomfort in your chest when your heart is really struggling to take that pressure that comes in at that high level and try to pump it out without put your heart under a little stress. You may have palpitations as the pressure goes up and all the rest of it. So
right, excellent. If someone let's say for example you're hypertensive, all right,
you have high blood pressure, right?
Yeah, right. Is it always a case where someone who has a stroke is hypertensive, or someone who is not hypertensive can also have a stroke?
Well, I told you earlier that you may not know that you have high blood pressure.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you can have a stroke.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because
not knowing that you have it,
have high blood
doesn't mean that you don't. But what I'm asking is if someone is not hypertensive, so you're okay, you're not hypertensive.
Yeah, you can have a stroke that's related to having an occlusion if your cholesterol is very high, and you have the release of one of these little balls of cholesterol and with blood and stuff, and it clogs your brains further down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It clogs your brains further down. You can have a stroke without really having high blood pressure. Yes, you can.
Okay, right. Because I think that's one of the myths. I think some people, there are people who probably believe that, only persons with high blood pressure can get a stroke. Let me ask this again. Is there, so we know that strokes occur in the brain, but I think there's also a little confusion with heart attack and stroke.
Because sometimes when you have a heart attack, you release clots from because it's kind of the same mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
You get a heart attack when remember the heart has its own circulatory system.
Right.
Apart from the fact that it pumps blood, it cannot have fuel for the machine, okay? So if you have high cholesterol, you can also have clots in your heart. right? You can also have those problems in your heart. And sometimes there are other underlying conditions that will not necessarily related to the circulation, but the very fact that you have clots within the circulation. The heart pumps one of these little clots and it goes into your brain and you can have a stroke. I was just saying that hypertension is one of the biggest factors, but there are other reasons why you can have a stroke.
Right. Wonderful.
So we see, for example, people with sickle cell disease, people who have problems with clotting. So people with sickle cell disease, all the persons who have problems with clotting, where the blood cells tend to, what we call agglutinate, stick to one another, and they can become a little clot. They can actually, we see kids with strokes, children who are born with congenital heart disease, right, can actually have strokes, or children who are born with diseases of coagulation can actually have stroke because this little clot goes up into their brain and can't go any further as the circulation goes, because your circulation goes around and around and around your body, providing oxygen and nutrition for all the tissues in your body. But you can see other people who don't have hypertension. Like I said, people who have who are at risk for having clots, right, are at risk for having strokes. Those occlusive kind of strokes, right? The stroke is a clinical picture that happens after, but you're at risk for getting a stroke because of that thing you call an embolism.
Okay.
That rolls through your blood vessels and gets to where it stops in your brain because it can't go any further. And the tissue beyond that, which is depending on the circulation, since the circulation, like how we don't know water in the river now, we can't water our plants down the road. Same way, once it's stopped, there's no nutrition, no nothing, no oxygen, nothing provided for the brain tissue beyond. And we see whatever outcomes, whatever clinical picture the person presents as a result of having this deficit.
Right. There's also another saying that you hear, and that is 3 strikes and you out. So in other words, people do not survive. So in other words, you may have 1, 2, but the third one you're definitely a goner. Is that true?
Necessarily, it's not necessary, but the more strokes you have, the greater your risk.
Okay.
The greater your risk of you dying, because what you have is more and more and more brain tissue becoming affected. Here's what's going to happen: you might find at the end of the day, that third, or even the fourth, or even the second, right, or even the first one, affecting vital parts of your brain, the parts that control your respiration, the parts that control your heart beating. Those are those. If you can't get blood to those parts of your body, you are going to the victim is going to pass away as a result. But no, the truth is that the more you have a stroke, the greater the possibility are of it spreading further or affecting a very essential part of your brain that has to do with your body's survival.
Right. So
basic survival, like breathing and heartbeat and stuff.
Right.
Kidney function.
Right. So your situation basically worsens with every one that you have.
With every stroke, yes.
Right. And
it's likely to worsen.
Right. And henceforth, the reason why it is so important to try as much as possible to prevent having a stroke.
Take whatever measures whatever measures are required for causing you to get, for making you stay well. Because what I want is to think about wellness. You can have had a TIA, but you can still be well because you control your blood pressure and you take your blood thinners, the thing that keeps your blood from clotting. You can do the things that are well. You can improve your nutrition, get your cholesterol down, manage your stress better. You might need to stop work, but the bottom line is that you can get to a state of physical and mental and emotional wellness, right? That you can live a normal life. You can have a stroke and go back to work if you choose.
Right. Yes.
The truth is that most of those big old strokes really do happen in the older population, you know, and so it might be defined as a population at the end of the working life or no longer work, right? And so one of the things is that not just having a stroke, how it affects the rest of your family, how it affects your spouse, your children, your caregiver, and if you're an older person living with a spouse or in your children's home or, you know, whatever it is, it becomes a burden, it becomes burdensome on the people who are not required to give you care. And therefore, we have to figure out, how am I going to make sure that I can still live a life, right, that is as fulfilling as possible, right? Because, you know, there are a lot of things to do. If you've had a big stroke or you have had some deficit in your movement and the power in your limbs and all the rest of it, you're going to need physiotherapy. You're going to need to get out of that bed. You're going to need to do a lot of stuff. You're going to need to rehabilitate yourself into the best person that you can be. And that is what wellness is. Yes, I've had a stroke, so.
Right. In terms of the effects of a stroke, and we're talking here brain damage, long-term disability mainly. What are people's chances? And let me put you on the spot here. Let's say between 1 and 10. What are people's chances of bouncing back from, let's say, brain damage or long-term disability?
No, that's going to depend on the extent of the damage that you've had. It's also going to depend on your attitude. It's also going to depend on the environment in which you live. What if you live in a situation where there is, and I'm saying, what if you live in a country, right, where there are very little services, very little support services, very little social services. So you're not able to get money to live. You know, you're not able to get social support. You're not able to have somebody who comes and cares for you. Or you're not able to even have something as simple as physiotherapy. So I think bouncing back depends on many of those factors, those determinants. Where do you live? If you live on top of a hill, right? Or you live on the, you know, you climb 50 stairs to go to your house. How do you come down and walk in the yard if you have no yard to walk? You know? Those kind of situations. It depends on where the person lives and, you know, their social circumstances, also the commercial circumstances. Can they afford? Can they medications available to them? Is physiotherapy available to them? Is a hospital close by? Blah blah blah. What if you live alone and you had a stroke and you're in your house for 3 days and nobody knows? It's quite likely that total death of tissue may occur. Sometimes just getting some extra oxygen at the hospital may make a difference because it increases the concentration of oxygen in your blood that goes to the brain. And even though there's already some deficit, it actually compensates a little bit. You know?
Right.
So there are a lot of factors. I think this is one time when I remember the one thing I tell you guys I learned in medical school. There are no disease, there are only patients. Every person is individual. Right? What is important is that we recognize the person who's there accompanying whoever the victim of that potential or that already existing stroke is, right? Accompanying the person recognizes that here we have a challenge and we need to act quickly. Okay? Here we have a challenge and we need to act quickly, right? And above all, people need to understand that we're all at risk for having these very unfortunate and often life-threatening or life-ending events simply because we just do not make use of the facilities that exist for us. And it's very sad. Right?
No, Doc, this is something that, and I think we need to spend some more time on that. But just before we go back there, just quickly, a couple of things. So, and it falls under some of the symptoms, right? For stroke, I just want to mention a couple. So, for example, dizziness, the headache, nausea, and vomiting.
Those are often related to patients who have very elevated blood pressure.
Right, but I'm thinking here, I mean, these are things that can a number of different conditions can cause that. For example, dizziness. You can get dizzy because of a number of reasons, maybe vertigo or all of that. But how do you? So what I'm getting at is, how can you identify or how can you determine? Look, the dizziness I'm feeling or the nausea I'm feeling, it's because of something I ate or whatever, and not because of an oncoming stroke.
Sometimes you can't. So that's why you need to go to the person who should know.
Right.
And that's where the responsibility of your caregiver comes in, your physician, your primary, whoever it is, to look and differentiate between is he having nausea because he eat too much peppery food, or because he been drinking too much, or because whatever, or is she pregnant or whatever. Okay? Or is there other underlying condition? Is it something that's just starting? How long it's happening? But you need to be examined properly. And some people just go and buy Andrews and end the nausea, or take a Panadol and end the headache, instead of getting the blood pressure.
And that's another thing, the headache. I mean, there's so many things that can bring a headache. How do I determine that I'm having a migraine rather than an oncoming stroke? I mean, we know migraines can be really, really bad sometimes. Sometimes you can't even move my eye.
Yeah, but, I've discovered talking to two people last week that migraines is synonymous with headaches. I have migraines, and usually when you ask, if you investigate, if you interview, that's why I need to go to somebody who knows, or find somebody to clarify a situation, because you may also have other symptoms, right? But what I'm saying, in the case of migraines, everybody said they have a migraine, and when you ask questions, no, you don't have a migraine, because migraines are very specific kind of headache, right? And it has its customers, right? People who are more prone to having migraines. So, for example, if I have migraines, my daughter might suffer from migraines, or my cousins may have migraines. It tends to happen. There are things, and we need to figure it out. You went to Lifeline. There are things you can go and read. We talk about seeking information, but going and seeing why am I having symptoms is very important. And like I said, maybe you don't know you have hypertension, but you need to go get your pressure checked, be observed, be examined to determine. And I'm answering your first question, to determine what is really going on with me. Why do I have lightheadedness? Why do I feel like the top of my brain is spinning out of control? Right? Why do I have this headache in my neck, this pain that I can't figure it out? Why is it that Godfrey is speaking to me and not hearing everything he's saying? Why he keeps asking me, what did I say? Okay, because I'm a little slurred, or I realize that I'm not answering appropriately. And this is something new to me, right? When those new symptoms come on, even if they're symptoms you've had before, it is important that we seek care. And it's also important that we, as physicians and caregivers, understand the possibility that exists within our specific geographical and demographic situation. Because if we have a lot of strokes, right? People tell you don't have high blood pressure because they just don't take their medication, right? You say, I need to take your pressure, right? And sometimes you have to do the pressure 4, 5, 6 times to ensure that is what you're seeing, right? But we should go to a place where we can get emergency care, and hopefully the emergency care is delivered in an emergency fashion.
That's another critical thing. Very
that is a policy thing. That's the thing that has to be left at a high level, way beyond us.
Right.
But sometimes you can just walk into your health center and ask, say, I'm having X. And there's always a way to send you forward if you're having situations. So if you feel that you've been dizzy, it might just be because you're dehydrated. But if you're concerned, go to a health facility so that someone can evaluate you appropriately and send you on.
Okay. So, Doc, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to delve a little deeper into, the services that are available that can actually assist people in, ensuring that they are
well.
Yeah. That they can remain well. So we'll take a short break, folks. When we come back, also a little later on, we'll be opening the telephone line so you can call with your questions and other contributions. Stay with us. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for Grenada to laugh again. Heritage Theatre presents Spice Laugh Comedy Bash 2024, Saturday, June 22nd and Sunday, 23rd June at the Trade Center in Grandance, and on Sunday, 30th June at the Deluxe Cinema in Grenville. Showtime, 7 p.m. every time, featuring some of Grenada's best ambassadors of comedy: Robert White, Dillion Walters, Kareem Alexis, Dale Bola, and other outstanding comedic performances, all coming to knock you off your seats with laughter. Get your tickets now. Bring out the entire family. Tickets are $60 and available at Mitchell's Pharmacy in Grandance, Gittins Health and Wellness at all outlets, Art and Soul Bookstore, Spiceland Mall, 3B's Shoe Store, downtown St. George's, Calico Supermarket, Grenville and Sutairs, St. David's Pharmacy, and Go to Fet. It's time for Spice Laugh Comedy Bash 2024.
Meet Mom. She's not just the wake up at the crack of dawn, make breakfast and pack bags kind of mom. She also gets her fitness game on. Yeah, she's the don't let anyone forget anything kind of mom. At the same time, she's the runs her own business, closing deals kind of mom, who finds time to get down and boogie with the kids after school, remodel the house, bake cake, host dinner, and even play her favorite game at the end of the day kind of mom. So let's celebrate Mom, because to us, she's so much more.
Welcome to the Super 6 Draw presentation for this evening, Tuesday, the 21st of May, 2024. I am your hostess, Jan Smith. Super 6 is a multi-jurisdictional game owned by Winlot Inc. and is played within the islands of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, Grenada, and St. Lucia. Tonight's jackpot is valued at $250,000. We'll now get ready to select your free ticket letter. Good luck. Your free ticket letter is H. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back with tonight's winning numbers.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
Now you love Super 6 even more. With more money,
the jackpot galore. Play more, win more, have more fun.
With more jackpot money,
Super 6 is my number one.
With the new and improved Super 6 game, the jackpot keep growing and growing
and growing.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game. Super 6, bigger jackpots, more chances to win.
Welcome back. Let's now get ready for your Super 6 winning numbers. Good luck. The first number is 10. The second number is 7. The third number is 26. The fourth number is 13. The fifth number is 6. And the final number is 3. To recap, your Super 6 winning numbers are 10, 7, 26, 13, 6, and 3. Your free ticket letter is H. Tonight's winning numbers were drawn under the supervision of an auditor from BDO. Please contact your relevant Central Lottery office for further information on the payment of prizes. Thank you all for playing responsibly, and remember, with Super 6 there are bigger jackpots and more chances to win. Our next Super 6 draw takes place on Friday, the 24th of May 2024. Until then, have yourself a wonderful evening.
Have you heard about the new Softweave bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer the best protection for you and your family. UVC light technology for a safe and effective disinfection process, eliminating 99.9% of microorganisms. Also, production at high temperatures, killing all types of germs and bacteria. And it's pH controlled with delicate fibers to prevent irritation for even sensitive skin. Softweave Total Hygiene Bathroom Tissue, available in supermarkets and shops island-wide. Visit Softweave Caribbean Facebook or Instagram pages for more information.
Are you looking for a reliable, affordable, and customer-friendly pharmacy? Look no further than Hills and Valley Pharmacy, the nation's leading healthcare products and services provider. We are committed to serving you at convenient locations. Find an extensive and affordable selection of prescription and over-the-counter drugs and medical supplies at Church Street, Hillsborough, Carriacou, Jubilee Street, Grenville, St. Andrew, near the bus terminal, and Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George. Our committed team is always available to offer valuable assistance for managing your health and wellness. Discover the additional benefits of our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street and our Medcare Center on Grenville Street, where we provide in-house physiotherapy, massage therapy, doctor consultations, and eye care services. Our commitment is to satisfy all your healthcare needs, including competitive prices, loyalty rewards, and special discounts for seniors. Contact us at 435-6904 and WhatsApp 535-4734. Choose Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Remember, your health is our business.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Doctor on Call, and this evening we're looking at strokes. And, well, of course, earlier we sort of went into a little detail on what is a stroke, risk factors, and, of course, symptoms, and so on. And before we get into the next part of the program, let me just quickly, the risk factors for strokes. We're talking about diet, and of course you want to avoid things like too much salt, saturated fats, trans fats, cholesterol. Inactivity. So it's important that, from time to time we do our little exercises, we keep ourselves active, do a little walking, or, light jogging when you can. Stuff like that. So keep your body active, keep your blood flowing. Heavy use of alcohol should be avoided. In fact, if you can avoid, totally. The use of tobacco, that one is a no-no. You don't wanna tread down that road at all. And of course, personal background, health history, all of these things should be considered. Because they all can aid to someone having a stroke. And we did mention some of the three main issues that can result. Of course, brain damage, permanent disability, and of course death. So you want to be very careful, you want to pay attention, and as Doc always says, wellness should be at the forefront at all times. Very, very important. And how can you maintain wellness? Of course, apart from that and all the things we mentioned, it's also very important to make use of the services that are available. In other words, primary application can play a significant role in how well you are and how well you remain. Doc?
Yeah. Maybe I'm distracted. No, I'm not. So I listen to you, and you're right. But I really don't want us to take stroke in the context of stroke alone.
Right.
I want us to take stroke in the context of not happening if we, or less likely to happen if we live the kind of life of wellness that is required. But also, that stroke is not only a consequence of what happens in adult life. I want to get to the issue of primary care from birth. What do we feed our children? Do we breastfeed? Breastfeeding, for example, decreases the likelihood of obesity, being way overweight for your age, size, gender, right? Height, depending on what time of your life it is, right? Are we preferring to give our children fast food, easy food, ultra-processed products? We don't even call them food. The things that you buy in those bags, they say them biscuit and cheese, corn curls, that is not food. That is often highly processed sugar. That is highly processed flour. Okay? Convenient. Oils, especially oils that we're not supposed to consume. Talk about the trans fats. You may look on a product, on the back of a product, and it says 0% trans fats, right? But it's not 0%. It's not true. It's untrue, actually. And trans fat is one of the things that most lead us to having elevated cholesterols, okay? And having our arteries clogged. So if it doesn't reach 0%, if it doesn't reach 1%, they say it's 0. But sometimes it's 0.25%. And there's not supposed to be any trans fats at all in your food. Right? So manufacturers and distributors will tell you, no, there's no, because there's not 1%, there's none. That's not true. So how we feed our children from small, do we have active lifestyles in our home? Do we get our children checked, their weight, are we vaccinated? Do we make sure that the child sees the doctor once a year? At least, because we don't do that after children are 4 and they have all the shots that they need for preschool. We don't, okay? Is it habitual that everybody in my family goes to the doctor at least once per year? For no reason at all. Not because you have a headache or you have a migraine, right? Or you have a toothache, and dental care is also very important. Or you have a urinary tract infection, or you buck your toe, or you and somebody fight and you get a black and blue eye, or you have diarrhea because there's bad water in the taps. Not because of that. Because you see it is absolutely necessary that you every year you go and check. Just how we check our cars. I remember my husband used to clean his car with a Q-tip. Hated even that. You spend the whole morning cleaning his car with a Q-tip and then take mine down for one guy to do a detailing on my car. But spend a whole morning cleaning his car. Are we going to be like that? Be very specific about how we care for ourselves as we care for our cars. Okay? Are we going to make sure that the quality of what we consume in our homes is appropriate? Are we using local foods, right? Things that are we giving our children fruits instead of giving them sodas? Do we play ring a roses and who stole all the cookie from the cookie jar and stuff in the yard, or do we give our children a handheld device? Do we go up in the pasture, or is there a pasture in the community? So how are we using the environment and the things that are available in the environment to make us stay well? The things we used to do when we didn't have a lot of money or so much money. Because some of us don't have a lot, but we still don't engage in the right thing. I'm not saying don't give your child a snack or a treat every so often, but it cannot be the way we do it. Because what we're going to have, if we think our generation, consideration at all times that we live in let's say we're middle income, but the funding that's available to take care of catastrophic events is a catastrophe, is a calamity when you have a stroke. It puts everything out of line. So are we ensuring that those catastrophic events are avoided as far as it is humanly possible? I'm not saying you're still not going to have a stroke. If you have a clotting challenge, you may not know, right? But are you trained to recognize, oh, something is wrong with John? Why is he speaking like that? Boy, why are you drunk? No, he's not drunk. He's really just sick. Mm-hmm. Okay? One of the challenges, people go to the health center because they have a problem. We need to stop going to the doctor because we're sick. We need to go to our health center and make sure that we are well. Do you understand the difference? Not because you feel you have a problem. You don't wait until you have some symptom to show up to visit the doctor. Because the more and more you do that, you would understand, you become so very aware of what your well body is, that when something goes wrong, you can pick it up very early. And that attitude to seeking care. Because a lot of people start having elevated pressure, the pressure high. No, they take a look at bush medicine. And I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong with bush medicine. This is not about bush medicine here. They take a look at bush medicine and hope it comes down. Maybe it works for them, maybe it doesn't. What I'm saying is that once you recognize that something is wrong, you seek care. Okay? Primary care. What is primary care? That place where you practice prevention, right? We learn how to live a proper lifestyle, and we learn that if we already have disease, how to manage it. What do? You have high blood pressure, change the amount of, control the amount of salt in your diet, lose weight, manage your stress, blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking generally about being well. Stroke is a good example because it is so catastrophic and so difficult to deal with in families or for individuals who may just live alone if you have a stroke. And because the outcome is so often death, right? So very often the outcome of stroke is death in the moment or down the road very soon. Mm-hmm. Other to that, we have extreme change in the quality and the standard of life that somebody has.
So, folks, we are experiencing a little some issues with the technology, so do bear with us. We do apologize for that. We lost Doc there for a moment. Of course, I'm just focusing a bit on the primary measures that we can take to prevent it.
No, I think the internet did what it's been doing all day long.
Yeah. So we're back with you. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know what the last thing you heard.
We were talking about the basically the primary measures and so on.
Yes. So if you get into the habit of how you're going to eat, how you're going to live your lifestyle, you become so aware of your wellness that when something goes wrong, you're able to identify quickly. Okay. One of the challenges I have is, and I was talking to someone yesterday because we've been planning this health fair. A health fair is not a clinic. A health fair is not a clinic. I go to health fairs without a pen. I'm not writing prescriptions at a health fair because I want people to be able to go sit with a primary physician, ask the questions. A health fair is a place where you gather information about wellness. Mm-hmm. A health fair is where we screen to see if there are any changes as a support for the primary care system. A health fair is part of the pre-primary health system where people go and they get information. We might screen for cancer. We might screen for diabetes by checking your sugar. We might screen for problems with your feet if you're already diabetics, right? We might screen for your look and see what your body mass index is. You know, how heavy you are, whether you're obese or not. But that is to inform you so that when you and your physician sit down, you can deal with it. It is very unfortunate because I think it's caused a lot of challenges and a lot of death and illness among our population who think that our primary care system is a waste. No, it's not. There are shortcomings, right? But it is not, right? We may think that there's no need for me to go to a clinic or my doctor. I don't need to see my doctor every month. I don't need to see my doctor if I have diabetes, I have hypertension every 3 months until I'm under control. And then probably I need 6 months, right? But you do. Because while you may not discuss all of it, your doctor takes into consideration how risky complications are. Where are you on among the possibilities for having a complication to your high blood pressure and your diabetes? And by the way, if you have diabetes and you're at a greater risk for having a stroke, okay? Because diabetes on its own does affect your cholesterol level and the health of the blood vessels, okay? So if you have hypertension and then you have diabetes, your risk is even further increased. But please do not use a health fair as a clinic. It is not a clinic. And while some of us distribute medications and stuff, we really should just give people things to make them feel good about themselves. You know, if you have a stroke, you get a ball for exercise. You get things to read. You get games to play. You get that kind of stuff, so that people become more in tune with their wellness and understand how can I stay well once I've had a disease. Here you find that my blood sugar is high on a Saturday morning. I'm not writing a prescription for you. I would like you to go and sit in your clinic and discuss with your physician, whether it's your private physician or the physician in a clinic, wherever you go, that you have somebody who can see you on an ongoing basis. Because what we do is create those spaces where you don't know what's going on in your life. And then that catastrophe occurs. So I'm asking you, yes, go to those health fairs. Yes, go get the knowledge. Yes, ask. Because I find at a health fair, I'm able to engage. And my colleagues and other people who we do are able to engage and share information in a more relaxed environment where there's time constraint, but a little less than when you go to the doctor, right? And you can ask questions. And yeah, some people may give you medications. One of the challenges we have, you might have a foreign mission that comes into Grenada, or wherever they go, come to Grenada, and they have a health fair in the community. With all that, they said you go because your sugar is high. Yes, I take medication. I don't want his name. Well, I don't know what his name. And they give you something that's used in North America that we really don't use here, and it might work for you. But they give you months and you don't go back. And the next time somebody else come and have a health fair, you go to the health fair. And you say, well, the doctor gave me some medication 8 months ago, right? And your sugar is out or your pressure is out. That is not fair to you as an individual. It's really cutting yourself short, really selling yourself, not giving yourself the opportunity that you deserve to be well, completely well, okay? You sell yourself short if you only go to health fairs as your clinic. No. When Dr. whoever it is, Mary, comes from England, gets back on the plane, she's finished with you. She may not ever come back to Grenada again to offer a clinic, but you have to go to where it always is. So yes, go to those health fairs. There's always something different, something new. Talking about exercise, talking about how we eat, how we can cook our own foods. Food and Nutrition Cogs is excellent. You can ask questions. I don't like bananas, but I'd have blubber. How much grain of blubber should I have? I'm a diabetic. Something as simple as that your doctor probably won't know anyway. But go and ask the questions and be able to interact. You know, how do I care for the wound on my foot? right? I have been taking X medications for so long. Is it necessary for me to change? Nah. If it's not broken, don't fix it, right? And people, yes, you may recognize, but you will be referred to your health center if anything is seen. But please do not use your health fairs as your clinic. It is unfair to you.
Right. So, Doc, we're going to open the telephone lines, and the number, folks, 435-2041. If you have any questions that you would like to ask or you'd like to contribute in any way, we'll be happy to engage you. The number again, 435-2041. That's 435-2041. We've been talking about strokes, and one of the things, Doc, that we have to remember, and maybe we did not mention it earlier, many of the risk factors as it relates to stroke are controllable risk factors. Very important, folks. Controllable risk factors. We're talking about, Doc just finished talking about high blood pressure. Uncontrolled diabetes. Yeah. High cholesterol, smoking, excessive alcohol intake. All of these things are controllable, so you can actually prevent yourself.
And I wanted to interject here in relation to smoking.
Mm-hmm.
So while our population doesn't smoke a whole lot, we smoke tobacco. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about smoking tobacco in particular. Why we may not smoke a whole lot? Because tobacco is known to kill 50% of the people that use it. Want me to say that again? Tobacco kills 50% of its friends every year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you smoke, you have an increase, because what the nicotine, the other toxins, but nicotine in particular, hardens the arteries and makes them not pliable. So the pressure stays hard. You have this blood that's going through the system, but it's going through a rigid pipe, right? Because that's what nicotine does. Guess what is one of the challenges in our community, which we can spend a week talking about that. The whole issue of vaping, which has become so vogue. And we see our children with these little things in their mouth, and they're inhaling nicotine. Nicotine is one of the most addictive substances. So after we fought after health systems and health organizations fought with tobacco companies, they found another way to make our people smoke. So what they have done, they put nicotine into this thing. Nicotine makes you high. You feel a sense of elation, okay? And they cover it with flavors. So you can buy a strawberry flavor, or bubble gum, and all those things, watermelon, and I guess cinnamon, and all the crap that people like when they ingest in something, right? It's nice to the palate. It's nicotine. What is going to happen is that if you smoke one cigarette, you realize, this makes me feel as good as when I use my vape.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that method of delivery of nicotine was developed to help people who smoke get off smoking, because you could control how much times a day you do it, right? It took away all of the other toxins that actually cause you to have cancers, etc., right? And delivers pure nicotine, which is the addictive substance.
Yeah.
So what you do is break it down, just like we use methadone and Suboxone for people who use the narcotics, right? You take them down slowly off it, right? So they come off the drugs completely. Basically, give them something very similar to the drugs, but it's that alone, and you're able to control the dosages and stuff. In the same way, that's what the vapes were delivered for. So people can get the nicotine fix, but they can decrease and decrease and decrease until they up the nicotine. Nicotine hardens your blood vessels. And I say all of this to tell you that we're going to have a population of young people who are not only going to have severe lung problems, severe popcorn lungs. Figure your lungs looking like a bowl of popcorn, and that's not necessarily clear. Figure your lungs so damaged when you're 20, if you've been vaping from your 7 and 8, okay? But we're going to have a population of young people who are going to be tobacco users and who are going to have elevated blood pressure, and who's going to and have an exaggerated risk for having strokes in the very near future. And that bothers me intensely. Some parents are very defensive of their children. Oh, it's just fun. It is not benign. It is not as simple as you think it is. And we have to look at the long term. Right. If you see a child in your house hauling up whatever that little thing is, it's probably using a vape. They're available, they're marketed. I heard they were highly marketed at Carnival in Trinidad and in Carriacou, right? Trinidad, Jamaica, all the people who have had carnivals. Ours is coming. You soon see the big signs, but you probably see other signs as well. I'm asking people to please recognize this dangerous habit that your children are practicing, which puts them at bigger risk for having high blood pressure and other chronic respiratory and cardiac illnesses.
Okay, wonderful. So, folks, the number 435-2041, you can give us a call now. I did observe a couple of calls coming in. So, yes, 435-2041. Let's go to our telephone line and see who's with us. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, caller. Mm-hmm.
Yes, a very excellent program, perfect information.
Thank you.
Yes, I am not a Googleist. I'm a thinker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you go to the dentist, you should inform the dentist that you're hypertensive or you have high blood pressure, because he will be able to use the appropriate medication. Is this correct, Doc? Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you for asking this question. So my daughter is actually a dentist, and we have these discussions every day. I actually tell my daughter she really should be practicing medicine because she screens her patients. There is a limit of blood pressure at which you can sedate a patient. You can give them, analgesics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anesthetics. Your doctors really should ask you, what do you suffer from? Do you have a problem where what if you have problems clotting? You can bleed forever. You may know.
Mm-hmm.
There's a condition called hemophilia in men where they don't clot and they can bleed to death. So there's certain basic questions that you should be asked in relation to your wellness. And you really should be, people should be bold enough to declare upfront, hey, I have pressure and I have sugar, okay? I sent all my diabetics to the dentist because you want to see, because with that circulatory compromise, you would lose teeth and stuff, okay? Because just how you have poor circulation in your feet and your hands, you'll have it in your gums and around your teeth. And, so you want your doctor to see from the beginning. Now, we have to learn to declare what we think. There's nothing wrong with saying, I have had. I've seen patients who, as I delve, they don't share information. And I go and I find stuff and I say, but, oh yeah, I had kidney problems. Oh yeah, the doctor told me I have diabetes. But they come and they don't tell me all of this. Mm-hmm. And you ask, oh yeah, but this is people who have been on treatment. So we must early declare. And must also ask. You must also ask.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You check pressure, doctor. What is it? Do not let your doctor tell you it's high or low. Tell me a number.
Right.
What is my number? Know your numbers. What is my sugar level? Right? What is my weight? What is my BMI? You need to know these things. Okay? So you can see, as the gentleman asked, when you went to the doctor, right? When you go to the dentist, you can say, the last time I went to the doctor, my blood pressure was 120/75. Or my blood pressure was 148/92. You got me?
Mm-hmm.
You must be informed. Ask questions. Demand that you're told. Don't let anybody tell you pressure high or low. That high and low is subjective, okay? High and low is how I feel about it. Here is what your pressure is. I know the limits, but
right.
People say, oh man, your pressure, all right, it's 140/90. 140/90 is high blood pressure. Okay? In today's world, 140/90 is high blood pressure. And so we who are caregivers must keep up to date with the information that we share with our patients. We must know what is the norm. What are the norms out there that determine whether or not, that can help to determine whether or not a patient is okay, it's good. No, you need to carry it down a little. So, for example, a person with diabetes needs to have a lower blood pressure than a regular person.
Right.
To be considered under control. And you tell, listen, we're going to work to this. We can do this. Don't worry, we can do this. Right? But the bottom line is that we need to be able to tell people, a patient needs to know my blood pressure is X. Right. And then you say, and you may ask, is that high or low? Oh, that's normal. That's a little high. Right. That's a little low. But our education, our information must be accurate in order to be able to support people, especially at the primary level. And if we are doing that, and if people are accessing the primary level and really making it their business as well, the hospital wouldn't be so popular.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't be so popular.
Right.
That is what we're aiming at.
Right. Let's go back to the telephone. We have another caller on the line. Doctor on call, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, caller.
Right to you and Doc.
Yes.
Doc, I just, about a month ago, I just found out that I am hypertensive. Well, it was 170/104, and the last count was 135/86. So, and then I went and do some tests and so on, blood works, and it said to me that the cholesterol is a bit high now. So I'm asking you, please, if you must take medication for the cholesterol, because you already put me on medication for the pressure.
So don't go. How old are you?
67.
Oh, you look like you're trying to hide a year, but it's all right.
No, that's it.
No, as a girl, you have that right. So, who else in your family has hypertension and hypertension?
Well, no one else. Mainly my mom that had it, and she died a lot of years ago, so she alone had it.
So you understand what's going on here, right?
I haven't heard that.
So, I'm sorry?
I didn't hear what you said last.
You understand what's going on. If you have hypertension, there's always a possibility. So you need to inform your children and your nieces and your nephews and everybody, okay? No, 135/86 is high.
Yes, I know.
Still elevated blood pressure.
Right.
Do you know what your target is? What is your target?
120/80.
I love you. Maybe because it's Tuesday. But yes. What have you changed in and I'm asking, what have you changed in your lifestyle?
Well, trying to change my diet and stuff like that.
Tell me, give me concrete things. What have you done?
Well, I'm doing exercises. I'm using more vegetable, greens, and stuff like that. And no, I don't use no sugar. I cut down on salt. I cut down on that completely. And I don't use no fatty stuff. I'm trying my best not to use the fatty stuff.
So, okay, I do not necessarily give my patients cholesterol medication when I first see them, unless it's really, really crazy. Okay?
Right.
So, cholesterol, the bad cholesterol comes from animal sources mostly, right?
Yes, Doc.
Do not buy
I don't really eat meat and stuff. I don't really eat beef and pork and things like that.
No, but do you buy tinned meat like corned beef and sausage and stuff?
No, I don't use those. No, I don't use them.
Good, so you're in a good place.
Right.
Okay? You see those oils we have on the shelf? I'm not calling nobody name. Canola oil is not oil, okay? Canola oil is for your car.
The main oil I really used to use was the coconut oil, but
right.
Yeah.
So, exercise will actually help your cholesterol come down.
Okay.
I know you say you don't eat meat, so you don't eat like chicken foot.
I don't eat a little piece of chicken, but I take out the skin. I don't eat much meat at all.
All right, good. So it probably
no
will
cheese,
come down.
no butter.
You can have a little butter, okay?
Okay.
Because remember, you have to have you want your cholesterol within that range, right? 130 to 200, because your brain needs it to keep nice and supple. Okay. But if you're exercising, you would notice. And I personally find that my patients whom I put to use whole grain oats.
Yes, I use the steel cut.
Right, this little fluffy oats in a pretty pack with cinnamon and crap. We can do that. We have enough salmon in Grenada, okay?
Right, because yes, Doc.
And the oats actually work two ways.
Okay.
One, it actually has an enzyme that blocks your gallbladder from producing. It has a compound that blocks your gallbladder from producing an enzyme that helps to digest fat.
Okay.
So if you have some fat in your diet, they want it to go outside, and then of course the fat will be absorbed onto the oatmeal anyway and go into your stools. So you don't want that your gallbladder send out the bile salts that are going to break down the fats and digest and get into your system. So those are two ways.
Right.
All right. But let's head for your pressure. Watch your salt. Watch your salt in things that are processed. So there's a lot of salt. There's a lot of salt. Salt is used for two things: flavor, and often flavor was secondary, right?
Okay.
But for preservation, in the days before fridge, we used to corn meat.
Yes.
And corn everything. And
everything,
right?
Yes, Doc.
And you need to have a certain amount of salt. So if you buy tinned beans, like which we probably have to do because we don't have water for our garden to grow.
Right.
You have to make sure and wash it out properly out of the tin and the tinned corn and other tinned foods that we have. So be very careful, especially when you're having tinned foods. Read the label. The label at the back.
Yes, I normally read, but I don't use me. Since they tell me that, I really cut down on all those tin stuff and things like that, because I didn't really know how to work it out, seeing as it just bothered me. No, so I was kind of skeptical.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, caller. We hope you are able to get some information from
yes,
Doc.
I will.
Yes,
I will. Yes. Thank you.
Yes,
bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. All right. We probably have time for maybe one more call. 435-2041. That's the number you can call. Doc, in the meantime, a quick question. The issue of ethnicity and stroke. Males, females. Men tend to have more strokes, but women tend to have deadlier strokes. Let's talk a bit about that. I think we lost Doc there again for a moment. We've actually lost Doc there for a moment. But it's important to note, folks, that yes, in fact, gender or ethnicity or race does play, it does have a role there. In fact, it's part of the uncontrollable risk. I did mention to you earlier about the controllable risk, for example, your hypertension, your uncontrolled diabetes, high cholesterol, smoking, excessive alcohol intakes, obesity, and so on. These are controllable risks. And some of the uncontrollable risk we're talking here, and I was about to ask Doc when we lost Doc, ethnicity. Males tend to have more strokes, but females tend to have deadlier strokes.
Because all the stress is out too much.
Or the other way around.
I know. Well, maybe it's just all of them. So, males have strokes. The truth is that we'd like to see that our male, the male of the species, right, seek care a little earlier, and adhere to the directions.
Yes.
We know that men are not as health-seeking as females are. Women are more prone to having diabetes and hypertension, though. Right? And I wanted to tell a lady something. I really, the lady, because I lost her in the middle of it all. I think I lost her after, everything just froze on the screen, so I want to apologize. But I want to ask her to keep the conversation with her girlfriends. Mm-hmm. Because I think she's really on the right track.
Yes,
right?
Indeed.
And her grandchildren, and just change lifestyle. People, I remember in the past when I was a younger person, a long time now, right? You'd hear about having this is the diabetic food, because for the diabetic in the house, and there's nothing as diabetic food. We all need to eat properly, okay? We all need to eat healthily. We all need to eat high fiber. We all need to eat low salt. We all need to eat foods that are not ultra processed, etc. We all need to stay away from alcohol. We all need to stop smoke. Whatever it is, it must be a lifestyle within families. How we live. All need to go for walking together. we have prayer meeting, right? And people go to church and they stay for 2 hours in prayer meeting. Why are we not walking around the church? Why are we not on the street praying? Why are we not exercising while we're doing this? Why are we not using those moments? Why are we not talking about having a little talk in the community about how we're going to stay healthy together as people? Why are we not sharing our meals? What did I cook today? Why did I remove the X from my pot? What have I seen with my blood pressure? Right? Those groups that meet, those informal groups that meet, or semi-formal groups that meet, how do we share the information? And that's what I'm asking us, lady. Talk to your sisters in your church, in your community, as to how you manage it. If you come on the radio and talk about it, it's a big thing to me because not everybody come and talk about the illness for everybody to know. All right? So I really would like to see us be a little more, all of us be advocates for better quality of life.
Yes, indeed. Well, Doc, we practically out of time. The conversation has been such a wonderful one, and I really hope our listeners, were able to at least take something from it, especially as it relates to the controllable risks, very, very, very important. And of course, if you take control of these risks, it puts you in a better position from getting to a point where the risks becomes uncontrollable. So please, folks, pay attention to that. I know we all love life. We want to live. We want to be able to wake up every morning and although it's hot outside, but we want to get up in the morning and say, boy, I wish I could get some rain today. Yeah, indeed. Very important. So, Doc, your closing words before we say goodnight.
So, I have to talk about the rain falling. The rain is not falling. We have water that comes almost looking like Guinness. It is not Guinness, people. So, don't. Put in your fridge. The water that you're going to use for juice, for making juice, drink, Marby, whatever it is, well, you'll boil your Marby, but to extend it, to give your children to take to school, etc., please make sure it's properly boiled. If you can't afford to buy a bottled water, but please boil your water properly. Please, I beg you. You've had a lot of gastro. Make sure that you boil your water. Remember, the old people in your community is really very hot. So remember that they make sure they get a little water. Remember that I thought this one, I was leaving home today, the lights had gone, and I really thought of people who are going to be home without access the services of a fan. It's really very hot. Older people and children get dehydrated very easily. Please, let's look out for them. Let's look out for them because it's really, really very hot. We pray that next week we're able to plant our peas and corn because we hope to have rain in the next few days. So, right? Still remember that there's dengue because of the little bit of rain that fall. It only needs mosquito only needs a drop to be able to lay its eggs, right? And to make more mosquitoes. There's still dengue around and other mosquito-borne illnesses. So please take care of yourselves. Now, in relation to what we talked to tonight, I want to look at it kind of different from how Godfrey looks at it. I'm looking at preventing stroke from childhood. Strokes are a possibility. We've had a more than our fair share of strokes and the outcomes. How can we live in a situation, live in an environment where we utilize the services that are available to us to make sure that we don't develop hypertension, or if we do, that we have control over the hypertension? I know they're within front of ministry, and it's a global thing. There's a new protocol for hypertension management, and soon a diabetes one as well. Please make sure if you do have it, if you do have hypertension and diabetes, that you can adhere to that protocol. People are supposed to be quite educated about what are we going to do, how are we going to make sure that hypertension is controlled in our community. But before that, we want to feed our children properly. We want to make sure that they're not using vapes to harden their arteries. We want to make sure that they exercise. We want to make sure that they don't use too much ultra processed products as far as possible. That childhood obesity is not a problem. That our adolescents are healthy. That they're not using substances. That they're not drinking too many sodas and all the stuff that can put them at risk for having hypertension and diabetes. And that families live a lifestyle that is conducive to preventing these diseases that when they come in catastrophic ways and cause loss. We don't want to be losing our fathers at 40. We don't want to be losing even our grandmothers. We want our families to live long and live harmoniously. Okay? And knowing that, yes, stroke is a reality, but let us try, each one of us, to try and decrease the possibility that I may have of having a stroke, and all my friends and my family, so we can all have a long and happy life.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Doc. Folks, it was such a pleasure being with you. Just quickly, as we go, it's very important, to be familiar with the signs of a stroke. Yeah. So if you notice someone displaying, and keep in mind that the signs of the symptom may be very, very short. But keep in mind, if you notice sudden numbness or weakness in the face, arm or leg, especially on one side of the body, call 911 immediately. Sudden confusion, trouble speaking or understanding speech, don't waste time. Sudden problem seeing in one eye or both eyes, sudden dizziness, loss of balance or coordination or trouble walking, or sudden severe headache with no known cause, do not waste time. Remember, these signs may be short, so it's important that you be familiar with them, especially if you know that someone in your family previously is hypertensive, maybe a mother or grandfather. Pay attention to these things. That's information that you need to know. And knowing
if you don't know, you ask.
So knowing it and acting immediately can save lives. Thank you very much, everyone. It was indeed a pleasure. You can join us next Tuesday for another Doctor and Call. Do have a good night. All the best.
Night, everyone.